Okay, so this is my absolute favorite part of the conference is our Women and Inclusion in Technology panel discussion. And I'm very fortunate that I get to moderate it as well. So we have a great lineup of young women coming up on stage. So as our wonderful production team sets up, I'll tell you a little bit about all of them. To start off, we have Vivant Shen. Vivant has studied economics and has obtained 2 masters in finance and risk sectors. She spent several years in the financial sector and peer-to-peer lending, focusing on credit risk modeling, fraud detection, and building scorecards. She is also a Kaggle master since 2016. Some of you did see, hi Vivant, wave to the audience. We introduced Dr. Erin Ledell a little earlier, but I will do it again in case any of you are new to the room. Dr. Erin Ledell is the chief machine learning scientist here at H2O, and she has a PhD in biostatistics from Berkeley with a designated emphasis on computational science and engineering. Her research right now focuses a lot on automated machine learning, and she did a talk on that earlier today. And she also focuses on ensembling techniques and statistical computing. Another presenter that we have from earlier today is Meg Mude. Is Meg in the room? Oh, wonderful. Hi, Meg. Come on up. So Meg also was speaking earlier today. She's a solutions architect with Intel, and she has 17 years of experience in global product engineering and solutions. She is very passionate about technology and believes that the world can be a better place, and our lives can be much better with technology. Please bear with me as I switch the page. And we have some great young talent joining us on the panel today as well. So Ava Prakash is a Stanford AI for All 2016 alum and Alumni Chapter lead. AI is so fascinating to her, and it doesn't just power voice assistants or recommending Netflix shows. It's the most transformative technology of our time, and it's revolutionizing every major industry. Since AI is making key decisions about our lives, Ava wants to help ensure it's developed by a diverse community of female technologists so that its assessments are truly all-inclusive and not simply male-dominated. Ava is the author of the young adult fiction book Alan Purring, which tells the story of a young Latina who crafts an AI-powered catbot named Alan Purring. She has also delivered a TED Talk titled Why Diversity Matters to the Future of AI. Cadence is a 10th grade digital media student from Oakland who's passionate about exploring the intersection of technology and the arts, and about utilizing technology to improve lives. She's been active with the Black Girls Code since 2015, when her team won first place in the summer hackathon. She also credits Black Girls Code with expanding her interest in computer science and technology and broadening the way she looks at her future. Welcome. And finally, Belle Reeder is an enterprising 7th grader who's interested in using technology to expand the reach of future entrepreneurial endeavors beyond the borders of her hometown of Oakland. With dueling interests in education and fashion, she envisions creating e-commerce platforms with global reach that can facilitate exposure of the local professionals. Thanks to her partnerships with Black Girls Code, she's been actively engaged with coders, mentors, and influencers who have been redefining the Bay Area's tech landscape. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, another proud member of my AI family, I'd like to welcome Ingrid Burton, who's our Chief Marketing Officer. Ingrid really lives and embodies diversity and inclusion in our workforce every day. She's an incredible mentor. She's one of my personal mentors, both in and outside of the office. And she has an incredible background with some great names on her resume, like Hortonworks, SAP, Sun Microsystems. So it's a great pleasure to have her on this panel today. So please give a round of applause. Okay, so to start off, can I ask you each to give a brief intro, kind of cover who you are and what you do?
I think you just said it. So I head up marketing here at H2O.ai, and as Jag said, I'm probably the oldest member of the panel here. Have a ton of experience, but started off as a mathematician and software engineer early in my career, and ended up in marketing of all places, so that's a journey in itself. But I'm really happy to be here. Just running this conference is just amazing as well, so thank you to my entire team, too, that made it happen. And we'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Belle Reeder. I am 12 years old, and I'm currently a middle schooler at Headway School. I'm here as a part of Black Girls Code, an organization that helps young girls of color learn about tech. I'm super excited to be here and learn as much as I can, and I think this would be a great experience.
Hi, my name is Cadence Patrick. I'm 15. I'm currently going to Oakland School for the Arts for digital media. So I'm studying film, photography, and graphic design. And I've always been really passionate about art. And one of the reasons that I love Black Girls Code is I get to explore the intersection between art and technology. So being here is really cool for me because I also really love AI. And so like seeing these two worlds that I'm interested in like sort of collide has been really cool.
Hi, I'm Ava Prakash. I'm a high school senior at Basis Independent Silicon Valley. In 2016, I was one of 24 girls selected internationally for the Stanford AI for All summer program, and I am now an alumni chapter lead for AI for All. I've also been a computational genomics intern at Stanford for almost 3 years now.
Hi, I'm Meg Mude. I'm not in high school. I have done computational genomics. I'm with Intel working as a solutions architect on vision and machine learning solutions for customers that look to production AI systems. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erin Liddell. I'm the Chief Machine Learning Scientist at H2O AI. I also work with two other women in tech groups. So one of them I founded is called Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, wimlds.org. There's a chapter in the Bay Area, but there's chapters all over the world. And another one that I work with is called R Ladies. So if you like R, there's R Ladies. There's also Pi Ladies. You don't have to be one or the other. You can be both. And so, yeah, I've been programming for a long time. Before that, I was a mathematician, and then I found my way into machine learning. And that's it. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Vivant Shen. I'm a lead data scientist in LandingWorks, based in UK. And I'm not going to mention my age, as I'm not going to compete with them. And also, since everybody is so fancy about Kaggle here, so I also want to say that I'm also a Kaggle master, even though I've not reached the Grandmaster yet. And I have been working in the data science for a couple of years, and I'm currently focused on the machine learning, and also try to bring new tools, new algorithms into our business. Try to just always catch up in this advanced of the technology.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so to start off, I think I'm going to ask a question that we're all thinking about. Have you experienced a bias in your career or at school, and how did you overcome it? Anyone's welcome to answer.
Certainly. But go ahead, Meg.
Please go ahead. I think you go ahead. Okay. One of the biases that we all have as women is that we're overly deferential, and in fact, all of us data scientists don't usually own up to the native truths of our models. That's a bias I think we all have. Sidebar, but important. Two big biases. So when I started in this profession, one was I was in a genetics lab, and at that time, I was 18, 19 years old, we were doing FDA submissions. And we had a lot of instrumentation that was used for capturing massive data sets, basically, for runs, behaviors. And I worked for someone who was an MD, PhD, who was very, very smart and illustrious, and he goes, let's see if you can do this, because you're a little girl, we'll see how this all behaves, probably like Eva. Fast forward for another, so that was like 98, 2008-ish timeframe. Fast forward another 10 years, I heard something similar, and at that time I was in New York City working on OCR machine automation systems, optical character recognition, and automating these stacks. Same kind of thing. Someone from a big bank said to me, "Really? You're the person who's productioning it?" I think a lot of the ladies and men here probably have heard this. I think we're at a cool place where it's not that way anymore, where the question isn't, are you the person doing it, but why do you think this is the approach we should take to doing X, Y, Z? So awesome thing that's happened is the conversation has shifted, but for a long time it was, what about you that makes you competent to do this? And so you prove that you're a mathematician, statistician, blah, 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 all the way up to now, where you say, this is why. I think that's something I've experienced. Go ahead, Ingrid. Erin?
Sure. I mean, I've had similar experiences where people assume that I'm not some sort of technical person, and they approach me and start asking me questions about marketing, which is generally, a female, although our marketing team is pretty diverse from the gender spectrum. Things like that where people are just surprised or confused, like who I am. I think, honestly, like since I got a PhD, that happens less, and that's just a thing. If you have a degree that people think is an achievement, people treat you differently, honestly. So, not that I'm recommending that's a good solution. It's kind of like not a very easy solution and applicable to other people. But certainly, when I was younger, it would happen more, and when I didn't have sort of that type of status. But I think, it's just important for women to have role models. And I think at H2O, we actually have quite a few women that are in leadership positions, and that helps. We're just one company, but I think promoting women into leadership positions helps to skew the bias that people are always assuming that either you work in a non-technical field or that you're, a junior person at the company. Yeah.
Okay, I think I can add something. Maybe it's not really gender related, but as a foreigner working in the UK, requiring a visa to work definitely put me at the disadvantage. Basically, it's because of that the cost of the visa or uncertainty during the applying process. Well, in order to overcome this, of course, I just need to work really hard to prove my capability, try to tell my line managers or the company says that, even though I have strengths on the visa application, but I still can give you a lot of, give proof that I can work on in the UK. And also that I need to supply a lot of applications while applying a job. But overall, I believe the most important thing is that it's not a bias, but when we put in this unfair situation, we just need to work really hard, try to prove our capability, try to prove that, use the action to prove that, yes, we can do this. Believe it or not, I'm here, I'm still in the UK, and this is a fact.
Yes, I want to kind of add to kind of what you three said, and bias or kind of being a young girl back when I was in high school, we were kind of somewhat discouraged from going into math or science, and I'm hoping you guys are going to tell me that's not happening today. So you overcome it. You get told by your high school physics teacher that you'll be a housewife and you don't need to be in high school physics. You get a degree in math, so you show them that they're wrong. And you go on to be a software developer like I did. So I took it as a challenge, like, you think I can't? I can. But I'm hoping, and by the way, in industry, I never faced that. So when I started coding early in my career, I mean, everyone was very encouraging. I never felt anything. So other than, like, wow, you're getting these results. This is fantastic. But I'm hoping you three are not facing what perhaps I faced back when I was in high school.
I have not experienced bias at school. My teachers and friends and classmates are super supportive of what we do, not just in tech, but just super supportive of each other, period. If somebody has an idea, everybody just works and collaborates to improve that idea, make it something better and add another level of depth to it. So I've not experienced bias in my career, and that's mostly thanks to the attitude my teachers and my fellow classmates take whenever we find something. So
We're making progress.
Yeah, just to add, so similarly to Belle, I haven't really experienced bias at school. I go to a school that is like founded on the ideas of inclusion and diversity, and so I'm very fortunate to be in a place where that is one of the core values, and that still is not always at the center of a lot of places in the workplace and careers. And so it's really important that we're here, still having these conversations, still talking about this, still trying to open these doors, because it's really important to feel like you can do anything without having doors shut in your face because of who you are. Yeah.
Well, I guess this is going to kind of kill the mood a little bit. But I have experienced a little bit of bias in my school in computer science classes, physics classes, Calc BC. For the most part, it doesn't happen, but I have had some encounters with kind of unconsciously being pushed towards making the PowerPoint or putting glitter and stickers on the poster board instead of actually being involved in whatever computer science project we're working on. And also in my experience in teaching AI workshops for girls and boys as part of my nonprofit, I definitely have had experiences where the boys are all circled around the Lego robot and really doing all the work, and the girls are kind of just sitting on the side. And it's not even on purpose. It's just that they naturally think that we're just going to watch them do it. And so I think we have made a lot of strides in trying to close that gender gap, but we're not all the way there yet.
And Eva, I really appreciate how candid you just were, because I do hope we're making strides, but I think there is work that still needs to be done, so thank you. So on that note, when it comes to middle school or high school or even or undergraduate education that maybe we can reflect on, what do you guys think needs to be changed to encourage and push more women to pursue careers in technology?
I'll go down. So thank you for being truthful, because I was afraid somebody was going to say it, because I have 4 children, so I do know what happens in school with them as well. They're not encouraged, and so I think it's a societal situation that we need to address, all of us. It's not us, it's all of you, and men and women, because I do think there's a bias against STEM overall. Even for men that I work with, we're not encouraged to go into STEM. I asked them, were you ever encouraged? So I think it's societal. We need to celebrate our brains and the ability to make a difference with technology, and that technology is not scary and crazy and only for smart people, which I know the room is full of them. But we need to make it more inclusive, from that standpoint, and break down the barriers. And things that are hard shouldn't be frowned upon. Yes, math is hard, but so is being a world-class soccer player. It's hard, right? You have to practice. You have to practice everything you do. And I think if we can just tell the world that, look at us, right? We can do it. You can do it. Why can't we get more of society to accept that and say, yeah, you don't have to be a genius. You can be a hard worker and get it done and make a difference. So I think we just need to make technology not this scary thing that only smart people get into. And I think that's what I'd like to change.
So most 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 16-year-olds at my school don't really know how tech is going to make a huge impact on their future in the future.
Neither do we.
So they don't really understand why tech is relevant outside of using it for social media apps like Instagram or Snapchat, or just communicating with their friends that are halfway across the world. One thing I would do would offer a class to teach the importance and relevance of tech in the future and in the present day. And we have, on Thursdays, we have an elective period where you can do things like yoga to decompress, or you can go to study hall just to take care of some homework before the weekend and catch up on stuff. But I think having an option like learning about tech and having that as an option, and encouraging the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders of Head Royce to think about that option, consider that option, and try to push them towards the option would really make a difference. Because if we know, if our current generation knows how tech is relevant and how it will heavily impact our future, then more people will gravitate towards it and more people will become a part of it.
Those were two great responses, and I would love to add on. I think that one of the most important things that we need to focus on in tech in the curriculum is that we need to show that it's everywhere. It affects almost everything in our daily lives, and a lot of people think of it as something more removed than that. Like, oh, like tech is its own separate field, but really tech is everywhere and it's in everything that we do. So even if you think like, oh, like I don't really want to go into a tech field because like I'm not that kind of person, there is something that you're passionate about that has something to do with tech. And so I think making that emphasis and showing people that, showing students, showing kids, showing girls and boys that they can find something in tech that will be something that they can work on, and maybe even a career in the future that they want to go into, is really important, because it's showing that, oh, like, yeah, I can do this. This is something that I'm interested in. It helps spark that interest early on in schools.
I think in terms of getting more girls specifically interested in technology, that they need to be exposed earlier on to the field. Like the boys that I was talking about, it's not that they're naturally better at computer science, it's just that they've been coding since they were like 2. And they're just more conditioned to seem better at technology. And the girls sort of mistake that as natural talent and then develop a fear towards computer science, when all they really need is more practice and more experience with it. So I definitely think that's something that we should all like be focusing on. And in terms of like both genders, I think technology definitely and computer science needs to be taught in a more fun and appealing and interesting way, which is why I wrote my children's book. It actually came out of a failed workshop experience where I was trying to teach machine learning to middle and high schoolers, and I was going straight into neural networks and supervised machine learning, and they didn't really get anything, not because I wasn't explaining it properly, but because it sounded really, really boring, and no one likes to listen to convoluted theoretical and abstract concepts just being thrown at them. So teaching technology in a fun way through a book, for example, would also be extremely helpful in getting more people involved. And not to like go off too much on this also, but in terms of specifically artificial intelligence, getting more people involved in that definitely involves breaking the stereotype around it. I can definitely say, even myself, before I went into artificial intelligence, that I really did think it was a field that was all about killer robot overlords that are going to take over the world. And I do really think that we need to educate the public that that's not what AI is actually about. It's really rooted in humanitarianism and helping people, whether it's through bioinformatics or robotics or natural language processing, if it's done in an ethical and moral manner.
So I am in agreement with all of these incredibly eloquent panelists. Also want to talk about two pieces of the inclusion conversation I think that aren't brought into our main dialogue. I feel very lucky, H2O, all of us are part of communities, technical, professional communities. All of us are part of communities where inclusion and support is encouraged. But I feel like there's two problems that have emerged in the last 10 or so years. It may be that we are victims of technology also. The first and foremost is the lack of scientific inquiry as a discipline taught at a young age to both boys and girls worldwide. And then the second thing is the overemphasis on consuming technology and consuming patterns as opposed to authoring them and engineering them. And this is, I think, for men and women. And personally, I went to a school for really poor kids, actually, but it was a school for gifted but troubled kids. So, you know, that's what I was characterized as when I was young. But, you know, these classifications that emerged way back when about how we viewed societal patterns, human patterns, gender patterns, demographic patterns, aren't necessarily the legacies we want to take. So my 2 takeaways on inclusion isn't just about women. It's about all of us broadening and making capable scientific inquiry, and then making authorship for technology accessible to everyone, whether it's the farmer's kid or the ophthalmologist's daughter or, a computer scientist's best friend or partner. I think this is something that all strata of society we need to tackle more aggressively, and I think we're in a special place and time to do that.
So back to middle school, that's a long time, and I don't remember liking it very much. But I think, when kids are young, all it takes is one comment by either a peer or somebody in power, like a teacher or school guidance counselor or something like that, to say something that kind of pierces your hope about some dream that you had, or maybe you didn't have it, but now you don't have it for sure because some older person has convinced you that you're not good at something. And I think, I don't know how to solve that problem other than to teach adults that are in education that you have a huge impact on young people, and so you have to be very careful about the things that you say and the way that you encourage or discourage people from doing things. And then I think also, when you're young and somebody says something like that to you, you kind of internalize it, and it's like an isolated thing. And so I know that, as an adult, I have these tech communities, generally like women in tech type of communities, where that stuff happens all the time. Like, especially if you're on Twitter, people say all sorts of nasty things. And if you have a community that you can share that with, it's almost like it hurts, but then it's something that you can bond over. You can say, oh, I know that guy, I know what he's all about, don't worry about him. So I don't know if that type of community or support system exists in schools, but just having kind of like, whether, I don't know, I don't like to gender things too much, but like a girls' club where you can like talk about stuff and, have support when people say something that hurts your feelings. That, that's my take on it. But
I want to mention a movie it's an Indian movie called 3 Idiots. I'm not sure have you watched this movie, but I really like the definition from one of the main actors. It says that the definition of machine is to reduce the human effort or try to simplify our work. So basically, we are in the environment where full of technologies. So just like those they said that if we can help the new generation to understand, to be honest, they shouldn't be afraid of technology. They shouldn't just try to be open-minded because they are living in the environment full of technology. They can be a really simple application just by Excel, which is be a really simple thing. As long as that can reduce our work, it called the machine, it called the technology. So give it a try. Don't be afraid of trying new things. And I believe that is something the new generation, if they can understand this, not just all kind of gender, they will be more happy to stay in the tech world.
Thanks, guys. When I reflect on my experience when I was in high school or middle school, one thing that I wish I really had was proper career coaching and career counseling. So to add to everything that you've said, I think a really thorough understanding of what a career in tech looks like and what different careers in tech could look like. At a young age, I didn't know that a trained programmer could become a chief marketing officer.
I didn't either.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? And I also think that our landscape is changing so quickly that I've had roles in my career that didn't exist when I was graduating from college or graduating from high school. So I think some really thoughtful discussions on what a good career looks like and what career potential could be. So yeah, thank you. This is one of my favorite questions because mentorship has been a really big part of my personal and professional development. And I think Sheryl Sandberg writes a really great chapter in Lean In called Are You My Mentor? And so I want to ask maybe some of the more experienced members of our panel. I want to ask you, Ingrid, because I think you're a spectacular mentor. But does mentoring help? And what do you think a really good mentorship relationship looks like?
Wow. So first of all, I never had a formal mentor, like where I said, oh, you're my mentor. And so by the way, thank you for nice, kind remarks, because I didn't know I was mentoring you, really. So that's what my point is: strike up relationships with people, network with people, men and women. When I started in my career, there were no women either in my advanced math classes or my computer science classes. I might have been one of 2 women, maybe. And so when I started as a software developer, there were no women. There just were no women. So you just start bonding with other people. You talk about what you're doing, like help me learn this Fortran language that I never knew before, and things like that. So it's more like meet with people, talk to people, get to know them, we got to know each other. And then, you just kind of start hearing stories like what Meg has to say, or Erin. Erin and I were talking last night at dinner. We have very similar experiences and stories. And sharing those, it's not formal mentoring. Maybe it's part of your girls' club, or, kind of empathy for each other, having that empathy. But I've had some incredible men guide me through my career who told me to go into marketing because they said I was good at it, and I didn't believe them and didn't want to do it, and did it, and love it. But, it just was a path that you just find yourself on, and you just kind of start to, go down that journey, because somebody put like what you said, one word has a negative impact, but also one word can have a very powerful impact. And so look for those positive people. The negative people, stay away from. And so mentoring to me is just more like friendships. Just make sure that you meet as many people as you can and be their friend, and have them, they give you advice. They just do, because they're your friend.
I think your point about not having to name it and make it such a formal thing, because then you think, oh, I don't have a mentor because nobody's agreed to be that person for me. So I think just acknowledging the people that are around you are playing a mentorship role, and just getting what you can out of it. And some people will be more engaged than others. And so, I think I have had people ask to be for me to mentor them, but I try to, encourage people also to realize that they can be mentors for other people. Like, you don't have to be an expert in machine learning to help people, to learn something from somebody and to teach somebody something. So I think just keeping it casual is a great way to expand your circle of mentoring.
I actually think the worst thing is when you're formally assigned a mentor and it's an awful fit, and you feel like you have to go through with the relationship. And that happens. Yeah. Yeah, someone comes up with an algorithm and says, you know what, Jag, you would be great with this person because you have a similar educational background and you're in the same industry, and it just does not fit. So the best mentorship relationships do come organically. Earlier today, Meg said to me after chatting last night, she said, I really want us to reconnect again. I'd love to see where your career goes. And that's how great relationships start. Someone takes an interest. Someone finds a commonality within you. And so don't be shy to leverage that. And I say this to you 3, actually. Don't be shy to leverage their experience and ask questions that might make you uncomfortable, because the women that have paved the way for us have been through an incredible amount of experiences that have given us the opportunities that we have today. And don't limit yourself to mentorships for men either. Sometimes we just find it easier to relate to women, and we think they have more commonalities, but mentorship is a beautiful thing. Wonderful. Okay.
I wanted to add something.
Yes, please do.
So on mentorship, I want to add one more thing. When I was working on my graduate thesis, I had 2 advisors, wanted to do a crazy program. Today it's known as informatics, but 19 years ago, nobody knew what that was. So one of my advisors told me to write a letter to my future self 20 years from now. Write a letter to yourself. And I've read similar advice there. And that's how you, I think, start your own self-mentoring journey and menteeship journey. So who do I want to be to me? Who do I want to be to other people around me? I think that's a great place to start. Unfortunately, when you do that, you're going to go through ups and downs. These three ladies probably know more about it intimately right now than we all do. But when you take that step, you're building a future model for what leadership looks like to you and what you can provide. And along the way, you acquire the skills and people to do it. It sucks a lot of the time, but mostly it gives you a true north. I think there's that piece too.
So this question is, I guess, needs to be framed a little differently for the different levels in the group. But for the more experienced ones, what would be the biggest challenge for the next generation? And for our younger members, how can we be strong role models for you as you plan for your career ahead in tech? So I'm going to start with Belle.
So I think that just giving positive feedback to people who are thinking about going for a career in tech that may be risky. I think showing them and teaching them to look on the positive side and try to keep on going even when it seems rough, I think that would help a lot. I also think that having people who went through something similar talk to you and kind of help you through it would be helpful as well, because they know a little bit of what you're feeling and how you think that things are going to turn out, and they can steer you onto a path that can offer you success if you take it. I think the biggest, I'm also going to talk about the second question. Yeah. Okay, I think the biggest challenge for our generation is that nobody knows what tech is. If we don't know it, we can't use it, we can't turn it into a career, we can't do anything with it except for watch as everybody else creates things with it, and we can only sit there on the sidelines thinking, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I had those skills. I wish I learned this when I was younger. I agree when somebody once told me that the worst thing to do is regret in life, when you don't go through with something that you are not sure about, but if you can try to see the light at the end of the tunnel and you try to reach for that light, I think a lot of great things can happen from it, even if you don't reach it.
Wow. She's incredible. I would, maybe we'll do it in pairs. So I think the biggest challenge is that people don't know what technology careers look like. They think engineer, computers, scientists, maybe coding. There's so many careers in every field. And I think maybe we should do a better job as, even in our company, in our communities, all of you work for somebody, is just broadcasting like what you do and how, and talk to young people, and maybe do that class that you were talking about, one of you talked about before hours or after hours. I think there's so much opportunity out there, and I think even when I went to school, it was, you were gonna be a nurse, a teacher, a housewife, a librarian, secretary. That was it. Okay, so I didn't know what careers there were. And so I think just the fact that, we're all sitting here and talking about it, is like we need to broaden everybody's imagination about what they can do. I think that's the biggest challenge is, don't be a consumer of tech, be a creator. And that's what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, there is so much unknown in the future, and I think that's a very scary thing for us, for this generation, because we don't know what kind of jobs, what kind of careers in technology are going to be open for us in the future. And so I think what people have to do now in technology is just show support to when you're creating things, when you're creating new jobs, when you're making new discoveries, think about the future, think about how this is going to affect the people that are going to be going into these fields next, and create pathways for them to be able to succeed in creating new discoveries, in creating more technologies, because that is really what leads to growth, is the support of generations building on each other?
I think specifically in artificial intelligence, something that I would really like to see that I think is a really big problem is diversity in the engineering pool that is actually making these technologies, because artificial intelligence in particular, its algorithmic values reflect those of its creators. So when you have databases or like data being collected by largely a predominantly homogenous white male group of engineers, then as kids we look to the news and see things that algorithms that classify African Americans as gorillas, or algorithms that pay men higher than women automatically. And so that really contributes to us being kind of scared of artificial intelligence and definitely not wanting to go into such a weird, strange field at all. So I think it's especially important in artificial intelligence to have more diversity in the engineers that are making artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much, Eva. So as you can see, it is time for us to wrap up this panel. This has been the highlight of my week. All of you have done such a wonderful job. Belle, Cadence, and Eva, it is such a pleasure to meet you. I sound very old when I say that I am so impressed with your parents for doing such a great job, for empowering you, for creating these opportunities, and I know the future is in good hands if the next generation looks like you three. So thank you so much.